so excited to let you know what's coming in 2023 for the site and everything that you can expect on the topics, books, and the unsung authors we'll be discussing. And in the words of Louis Skolnick,
oh, great! This is going to be a great year!
So what can you expect from me, the site, and our new YouTube channel this year? Well, for one, February kicks off the official launch of the Xennial Reader website, where we discuss, not review, book titles more in depth, and we take a deep dive into the themes and tropes that are presented in those stories. And since it's the month of love, guys, we'll be discussing all things romance, which I am so excited about. It's been a really cold winter. So when it comes to the selection, we're going to make the room sizzle due to the many different books from the genre, old and new, that are going to come up. And I'm excited to discuss one of my favorite romance storytellers, Beverly Jenkins, and many of her amazing works. That's right. We're giving the queen her flowers now, guys, while she's still here. So be sure to get in on the discussion and share your favorite Beverly Jenkins novels, because I know your list is going to be really long. She's got some bangers. So we're also going to be exploring some deeper topics in February that involve the romance genre, like the typical tropes found that we do love to see, along with some really problematic themes that I found in some old Harlequin novels upon rereading them, like the justification of domestic abuse and the R word in a plot. Yuck. So, to wipe that bitter taste from our mouths, we're going to round out February by absolutely gushing over the Love Swept collection. And we're going to talk about some of the superstar storytellers that came out of there, like Linda Caggio. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. There's also one of my favorites, Donna Kaufman. And of course, we cannot forget the absolutely entertaining Fayreen Preston. So that rounds out February. What about March? In March, we'll be discussing a few poets and essayists that are filling my heart and absolutely raising my spiritual and mental vibrations. And that's including essayist Roxane Gay. We'll be researching the works of poet Morgan Harper Nichols. We'll be reading The Lost Arabs by Omar Sakr. We'll also be checking out Tomorrow's Woman by Greta Bellamachina. We're just going to see what they're like. I'm interested. Let's try something new, guys. It's all about reading new books together. So in April, we're going to be exploring the silly and foolish acts found in many books. I definitely want to take a deep dive into the stories found in the Canterbury Tales and the lore behind the Turkish fairy tales and folk tales by R. Nesbit Bain. I've gone on to Goodreads and seen some of the comments about that book, and I've heard that there are some cultural inaccuracies in this book that I'd like to explore further. In May, I'll be sharing my book hauls, including books that I recently scored in a Barnes & Noble store shutdown sale that just blew my mind. I must have gotten like $600 worth of books for like $60, as well as the titles that I bought years ago that I still have yet to read. But we're going to talk about what interested me about these books and what will probably interest you about them and why you may want to check them out. In June, I'll be revisiting some of my favorite books from our youth. We're going back in time, y'all. Does anybody remember those Alice books by Phyllis Reynolds Naylor? Oh my God, I loved those growing up so much. And I really thought she did an amazing job rounding out the series decades later with the final Alice book. So I'm going to talk about Phyllis Reynolds Naylor's attempts to include more people of color in her books as the series progressed. And I'm going to rate just how well she executed it. Some other titles that we'll be doing a deep dive into are Maniac McGee, How to Eat Fried Worms, and The Unicorn Club. OMG! Who remembers the Sweet Valley High series? For real, y'all, this is like, we're about to go back in time. And we're also going to do a search to find more YA books starring BIPOC characters. Because if you're anything like me, growing up, you read a lot of these same titles that I'm mentioning, and you couldn't help but notice the lack of melanin around. So in July, we'll talk about books that have been turned into movies and TV shows. including one of my favorite Christopher Pike books, The Midnight Club. Oh, thank God for Netflix. We're also going to talk about Kindred. Yay, Hulu! We're going to talk about the book A Day Late and a Dollar Short by Terry McMillan that got turned into a movie starring Whoopi Goldberg. We're also going to discuss Lovecraft Country and The Color Purple, just to name a few. For August, we'll explore historical and research books, including what I'm currently looking up and why these books are important from a future standpoint, as well as why you should check them out if you're researching a particular subject or topic. In September, we're highlighting the unsung women in fantasy and horror. This list includes the incomparable Carolyn Holland, author of the Brothers of the Dark Veil series, prolific author Delicia Jenkins, and a few that I'm looking forward to adding to my repertoire, like Stephanie Bois, Jessica Cage, and Talia Clay. While it seems like we should be discussing the horror genre in October, instead we're going to shed light on a real horror still plaguing many women and some men nationwide: domestic violence. During this month, I'm going to spotlight authors and books that do their part in spreading domestic violence awareness and helping victims recognize the signs and gain the courage to get out of a dangerous situation. In November, we'll be discussing some amazing books you probably haven't heard of, and a few that I just found out about too. I'm going to talk about and reread The Just Dust Girls by Evelyn Slim Lambright. And let me tell you, this book, I read it as a kid, like in my teens, and it is still a banger. This is one you need to have in your repertoire. She is truly unsung, and it breaks my heart that more people didn't know about her book. We'll also be reading and discussing Chocolate Sangria by Tracy Price Thompson. She's the best-selling author of Black Coffee, and I'm so excited to get into this one. But those are just a few of the books we'll be exploring in November. And finally, in December, we'll be talking about your suggestions for the best, most comfy stories to curl up with in your favorite chair with a cup of coffee, cocoa, or tea if you're anything like me. So be sure to sign up for the newsletter and book club. It's free, y'all, it's free. And hang out with me, discuss some books, really have a good time listening to music, sharing some tea, and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, you guys. The link is below. So that's it. I'm really excited to get into these book discussions with you, and I cannot wait to see you guys next time and hear your thoughts as well. So until then, see you next time, guys, and have a great 2023.